My name is Lyra Voss, 25 years old. The words landed like a receipt I never agreed to pay. If you want to stay here, Lyra, start paying rent. My mother said it, standing in the archway like a judge who doesn't need a gavel when she has an audience. Marco was slouched on the couch, a controller in his hand, crowned by the glow of a paused game. Camilla giggled from the kitchen as if this were the punchline to a long-running sitcom. The twins were upstairs, turning bedtime into a hostage negotiation, and the laundry basket I was holding dug into my hip like it wanted to keep score for me. I didn't argue. I didn't list the bills I'd paid this month, the lunches I'd packed, the midnight fevers soothed while Marco and Camilla were on a date 3 nights a week. I didn't present evidence of the utilities in my name or remind anyone the grocery and gas cards ran through my account. I set the basket on the floor, walked down the hall to my room, and pulled out the duffel I'd never really unpacked since I moved back for a little while 2 years ago. Clothes, laptop, chargers, toiletries, the cards they loved to borrow. The door to my room stayed open. No one followed me, shock masquerading as permission. When I passed through the living room again, my mother tilted her head as if I had misunderstood the assignment. "You're being dramatic," she said with a smile that wasn't one. "We're joking." No one laughed. It was only a joke if I stayed defeated. The motel was nothing, and it was everything. A clean bed, a door that shut and stayed shut, quiet so thick I had to swallow it in sips. I lay there and realized I hadn't heard this kind of silence in more than 2 years. No, Lyra, where are my socks? No, can you just no. Oh, good, you're here. Just the hum of a unit that belonged to no one but me for the night. By morning, my phone looked like a town square. "Mom, where did you go?" Marco, "You serious right now?" Camila, "We have plans tonight. Can you come back?" Even my out-of-state sister, Mika, who hadn't called in 6 months, discovered a sudden passion for family obligations and sent 6 paragraphs to prove it. I didn't respond. I ordered breakfast, streamed a movie with the volume low, and started searching for a short-term rental. The world didn't end. The twins didn't evaporate. The sun crossed the parking lot and went somewhere else. By the 5th day, I had a weekly place with a little kitchenette and a table big enough for one person to eat without balancing a plate on her knees. I made a grilled cheese and ate it hot, standing up, just because I could. That was when my phone buzzed again. Marco. The credit card declined. Did you forget the payment? I stared at the message for a beat, then laughed. Forget? No, I'd finally remembered. My money doesn't come with visitation rights. I didn't answer. I put my phone face down on the counter and listened to the silence change shape. The group chats popped like oil in a pan. Mom, why is the electricity past due? Camilla, the internet's down again. Did you renew the plan? Marco, the gas card says insufficient funds. Mika, can we talk like adults? I did what none of them expected. I stayed silent. The funniest part, if there was one, was how many accounts were in my name, not because I craved control, but because no one else could open them. Bad credit. Too busy. No idea how. I was the one who stepped up, and they wrote my stepping as, "What you're for." On day 7, a voicemail from my mother arrived with voice actor softness. "Lyra, honey, I think we all overreacted a bit. Come to dinner? Let's reset." It was remarkable how fast contempt becomes etiquette when the lights flicker. My phone pinged with a text from Caleb. "Checking in. Need a ride, a meal, or a cocoon?" I smiled at the screen. "Cocoon secured. I'll call after dinner tomorrow." "Always your backup plan," he wrote, and then, without making you pay interest. Caleb had a kindness that didn't advertise itself. He also had an ex, Sienna, who commented on everything like she was staging a reunion tour. I'd seen Sienna's name pop up under one of Mika's posts last month, both of them drenched in heart emojis about family as work. It was a small thing, a flicker. I let it pass and put my energy where it belonged, into a boundary I could carry. I said yes to dinner, not because I missed them, not because I believed an apology was coming, but because I needed to see what they were like without the scaffolding of my time and money. The house had that scrubbed-in-a-hurry smell, the kind of clean that shines on top and rots underneath. Camilla opened the door with a smile that was 90% gums and 10% doubt. Marco hovered behind her like a waiter who knew the kitchen was out of the special. Mom sat at the table, her phone face down, as if that were proof of devotion. Dinner limped along. Chicken, rice, store-brand soda. Small talk like training wheels, weather, a neighbor's new fence, the twins conveniently at Camilla's parents tonight. I waited for the apology, like a nurse waits for the doctor who's always on the way. It didn't come. What came instead was a deep sigh and the line rehearsed in a mirror. "We've been talking," Mom began, tapping her napkin into submission. "You made your point by leaving, but you live here. You should contribute. That's how families work." It unfolded from there. I owed them for letting me stay so long. I had no right to act like a victim. I abandoned the kids. Marco had to cancel a weekend trip because of me. The speech ran 2 hours without an intermission. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't anchor them with my patience so they could swim in circles. "I need the bathroom before I head out," I said, standing. In the mirror, I saw a woman I recognized and hadn't met in years. Not the babysitter, not the third parent without rights, not the errand engine with a pulse, just a person who was done. I locked the door, turned the faucet on, and let pettiness do what logic had failed to do, make labor visible. I didn't vandalize. I inconvenienced. The kind of mess I'd been cleaning for 2 years without applause. Then I washed my hands, dried them carefully, and rejoined the dinner table with a smile. "Thanks for dinner," I said. "Good night." 40 minutes later, my phone vibrated so hard it skittered across the motel nightstand. I answered once. Mom yelled. Marco yelled behind her. I think I heard Camilla gag. I said, "Maybe next time don't treat the person keeping your life from collapsing like garbage," and hung up. I blocked them all. Peace isn't just quiet, it's a lock. The weekly rental wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I woke without a chore list in my head. I cooked when I wanted, ate what I liked, left a mug in the sink, and let it be just a mug instead of a verdict. I worked in real silence and realized how tightly wound I'd kept myself to cushion other people's chaos. Then the calls restarted, from numbers I didn't recognize. The messages came through my sister. "They're really sorry. They just want to talk." Screenshots followed. Blurry photos of the twins holding crayon signs. "We miss Aunt Lyra." They didn't miss me. They missed extraction. 2 weeks later, Marco sent 3 words. "We messed up." I didn't reply. Guilt has a subscribed tone. I'd canceled mine. A day after, Mom texted, "Dinner. No expectations. We want to apologize." I didn't believe her, but I said yes anyway. Not because I was open to forgiveness, but because curiosity is a storyteller, and I wanted an ending I trusted. Dinner was at 7. I arrived at 7:20. The house was fake clean again. The smiles were better rehearsed. They talked about hard times and confused kids and bills piling up. There was no apology, just a proposal disguised as mercy. Move back until things stabilize. Watch the twins so Marco and Camila can get back on their feet. Maybe help with a few payments. "Nothing crazy," Marco said. "Just the basics. That's how it should be, right?" Right. The old system with a new bow. Me, invisible unless something broke. Them, grateful until the next ask. I stayed for dessert, made another polite trip to the bathroom, and left the kind of slow burn inconvenience a house deserves when it forgets how many hands it takes to run. I shut the front door behind me and didn't look back. My phone lit up an hour later. "Camilla, you're disgusting." Marco, "What is wrong with you?" Mom, "You're a psycho." I didn't answer. I was busy signing the lease on a 1-bedroom overlooking a pocket park where the light looked like it remembered how to land. When the confirmation email came through, I forwarded it to myself with a subject line I could live inside. "First door that's mine." I signed the lease at noon and picked up the keys at 5. The super handed them over like a benediction. The apartment was second floor small, 1 window onto a pocket park, a kitchen with honest tile, a bedroom that asked nothing of me except that I sleep. I stood in the doorway too long, letting the quiet introduce itself. It didn't feel empty. It felt like a room that knew how to keep secrets. I set my 1 suitcase down and walked a slow loop. Window latch, light switch, cabinet door. Everything worked. No one shouted for me from another room. No one thumped down the hall demanding socks. I breathed in the new paint smell and exhaled the last 2 years like dust. The first night I ate dinner on the floor because I didn't own a table. Spaghetti in a chipped bowl I'd borrowed from the weekly rental, a glass of tap water, an orange for dessert. I texted Caleb a photo of the view. Tree branches, a slice of moon like a thumbnail. "You did it," he wrote. "Proud of you." Come by tomorrow? I asked. Name the time. I'll bring takeout and the good screwdriver set. He came the next evening with dumplings and tools and a way of moving through my space that didn't feel like encroachment. He assembled a thrift store bookshelf I'd dragged up the stairs, tightened the screws on the wobbly chair that came with the unit, and left a little sticky note on my fridge that said, "First cup of coffee here will taste like a new page." We didn't talk much about my family. When we did, he let me decide the depth. "I'm here," he'd say, palms open, as if the sentence itself were furniture he was installing for me to lean on if I wanted to. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. That was the point. The messages kept trying the door from the outside. "Mika, they're really sorry this time. Can we just sit and talk?" "Mom, I have the twins drawing you pictures. They miss you so much." A photo followed, 2 stick figures, and a lopsided heart. It was supposed to look like love. It looked like bait. I bought a table the 3rd day. It wobbled slightly until I learned which corner to nudge with my hip. A week after that, I hung a cheap curtain and watched the afternoon turn the room to honey. I walked to the market on Saturdays. I made eggs at midnight because there was no one to judge the timing. I slept with the window cracked, and the sound of distant traffic tucked me in like a fan. The first test of this new piece came quietly. A ping on my phone before breakfast. An auto-generated congratulations banner from my company's portal, then an email with a subject line that made my hands go cold. Promotion confirmation, effective immediately. The body of the email was all corporate prose: expanded responsibilities, consistent performance, compensation adjustment. The number at the bottom wasn't a sentence, it was a door. I stared at it long enough for my eggs to burn. Then I laughed and ate them anyway, charred edges and all. I'd been doing the job 2 levels up for months and pretending it didn't count because no one named it out loud. I told Caleb first, not with fanfare, with a text. They moved the title to where the work already was. He replied with 3 fireworks and dinner on me tonight. Pick your place. I did not tell my family, not out of spite, out of caution. Good news is just another thing people can spin into debt. But Mika had a talent for scraping the internet like a little archaeologist of other people's lives. She found my updated title on LinkedIn within 24 hours and showed everyone like she'd caught me cheating at Joy. The flood came on schedule. Marco, so you're making that kind of money now and just let us drown? Camilla, wow, must be nice to level up and forget your family. Mom, you used to be such a good girl. I don't know who you are anymore. There it was, the weird arithmetic where my piece offended their math. I almost muted them and moved on. Then my phone lit with a message from a number I didn't recognize. It wasn't a text, it was a video. The thumbnail showed scuffed floorboards. My stomach knew the room before my eyes did. I watched my old door swing open, the camera jerking with Marco's breath. He panned to the corner where my bed had been, to the gap the vacuum never fit, to the thin seam in the wood. A screwdriver entered the frame like a blade. He pried up the board with too much flourish, like this was a heist movie and he was finally getting to be the lead. Underneath, exactly where I'd left it in a rush the first night I ran, sat a small metal lockbox. I'd kept it for years. Old IDs, pay stubs, contracts from freelance projects, a backup drive with client files and tax documents, the things you don't trust to cloud promises and laptops you carry through kitchens sticky with spilled juice. I'd forgotten to grab it when I left with a duffel and a pulse. He set the box on the floor and tapped the lid with the screwdriver like he was knocking on a door. The video cut out. A text followed. Marco, maybe come talk in person this time. You really want us holding on to this? Family shares everything, right? For a moment I heard nothing. Even my own breathing stopped out of respect for the decision standing up inside me. Panic knocked first, insistent and loud. Then training put a hand on its shoulder. I called Noah, a friend from college who now spent his days in windowless rooms protecting companies from the exact kind of person my brother was playing on his phone. I have a box, I said without preface. Metal. Inside is a drive with encrypted backups. It's at my mom's house. This is why we're friends, he said calmly. Because you prepared for apocalypse dumb. Tell me your last encryption change. I pulled up the file in my head, the way other people pull up old songs. He walked me through a drill we'd practiced once for fun and once for real when a client was sloppy with a password. I logged into the console for the drive's emergency protocol and toggled the wipe on unauthorized access feature I'd never thought I'd need. I changed the encryption keys on the cloud end. I revoked device trust for anything that wasn't this laptop or my work machine. I watched the console light up a sober red, remote self-protect enabled. 10 minutes later, my phone vibrated again. Marco, what did you do? It's all garbage. Your precious files are blank. You think this is funny? I typed and deleted twice, then settled on a sentence that fit inside my chest without rattling. You had one chance to be decent. That's over now. No reply. The silence felt like teeth unclenching. By morning, alerts bloomed like small, controlled fires. Someone had attempted to access my bank login from an unfamiliar IP, then my old work portal. Each one pinged me, and each one died on the locked door of two-factor authentication and a fraud flag my company's security team took personally. When the call came from HR, my heart stuttered and then righted itself. We saw the alerts, Yaishim, they said. Are you safe? Yes, I answered, and heard how true it sounded. Our legal team is available if you need to draft any notice, they offered. We can also add an extra watch on your accounts for the next 90 days. Thank you, I said, grateful in that aching way you get when someone puts a guard dog in your yard for free. I made coffee and drank it at the table I'd bought with my own money. The room was quiet. Outside, a kid shouted about a scooter, and somewhere a dog insisted hope could be loud. I pressed my hands flat to the table and let the surface remind me I had weight. At noon, my phone gave a different kind of buzz. Caleb, lunch? Or want me to swing by with celebratory pastries for the big promotion? He hadn't seen the video, the threats, the way my brother thought leverage was a synonym for family. Swing by, I wrote. Bring something flaky. I have a story about a box. On my way, he replied. I'll bring honey too, for bitterness. When he arrived, I told him everything without making it a performance. He listened without reaching for solutions I didn't ask for. When I finished, he set a bag of pastries on my table like an offering and said, You did good. You did brave. He squeezed my hand once, then let go. And if you want me to call my ex and tell her to stop orbiting your sister's feed like a satellite, I will. I thought of Sienna, her glossy posts about choosing love, the way she'd recently started replying to Mika with rows of hearts like punctuation. I shook my head. That constellation feeds itself. Let it starve. We ate croissants and sticky buns, and a triangle of something that tasted like butter had learned to sing. After he left, I opened my laptop and created a folder on my desktop called Receipts. I dragged in screenshots I'd taken the night my mother declared rent. The messages where Marco swore the gas card was our family account. The video of the lockbox with a timestamp and his voice breathing through it. Not for revenge, for memory insurance. For the day my own mind might try to be kind and edit out the parts that don't fit a tidy ending. Late that afternoon, my phone lit up again, this time with a public tag. Camilla had posted one of those long paragraphs on Facebook that hold together only because punctuation is exhausted, a monologue about abandonment and trauma and how I weaponized money while living under their roof. She'd even unearthed a photo of me from 2 years ago with one of the twins on my shoulders. The caption, she used to love them like her own. What happened? Comments bloomed fast, and I felt the old reflex twitch, defend, explain, make a slideshow. I didn't. I put the phone face down and walked to the park. Kids fell off scooters and got back on them. A woman taught a terrier to sit with a patience I wanted to steal. The light leaned long across the grass. By the time I came upstairs, my friends had found the post for me. Tasha dropped a screenshot in my messages. My mother asking me for rent money, just this once, the 5th time in 6 months. Jose posted a Venmo record with a caption. She covered groceries on the 15th because your card glitched. Someone from work DM'd me. Do you want me to say something? I have receipts. I thanked them and told them to take care of their own piece first. The thread flipped on its own. Questions rising like bubbles. Why didn't Marco register the car Lara signed over? Why was everything in her name if she lived under their roof? Why did they always have time for spa days but never for work? The post didn't disappear yet. It would. People don't delete lies until they get bored of them. On my table, the keys glinted in a little dish. The metal looked like a modest crown. I touched them, just to feel the cool. My phone buzzed one more time. A new number, a single line. Unknown. You called HR? Over family? Wow. No signature. I didn't need one. I typed back, over fraud, over threats, over me finally choosing the lock that fits my door. I didn't hit send. I didn't have to. Some messages are for you. The sun slid down. I turned on the small lamp Caleb assembled, the one with the linen shade that made the room look like it had learned a soft language. Tomorrow, I told myself, is a day with walls that hold. Outside, the streetlights hummed like far-off bees. Inside, my life did not ask me to earn it. A week later, I found out the Facebook post was gone. No apology, no clarification, just deleted like a stain they could scrub off the record. I didn't need an announcement. The silence after was its own confession. That's when the next performance began. Mom, we all overreacted. Why don't we start fresh? Dinner at 7, just family, no expectations. The word expectations sat on the screen like a warning label. Still, I agreed to go. Not because I believed them, but because I wanted to see what fresh meant to people who never cleaned up their own mess. The house looked the same, but smaller somehow, like the air had learned not to expand. The lights were dim. A candle flickered on the table, fighting the smell of reheated chicken. Camilla opened the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Lyra, you look great." "I am great," I said. Mom hovered behind her, the queen of pretense, her perfume strong enough to hide resentment. "Come in, sweetheart. Let's eat before it gets cold." They'd gone through the motions, mismatched plates, takeout sides, store-brand soda. The twins were nowhere in sight. The chairs scraped against the floor like sighs as we sat. At first, the conversation tiptoed around normal. Weather, jobs, a cousin's engagement. I let them circle. I'd learned patience isn't always politeness. Sometimes it's surveillance. Then Mom set her fork down, and the script flipped. "We've been talking," she said, "and we know things got tense. But we were thinking maybe you could move back, just for a while, until things settle." "Settle?" I asked. "Right," Marco jumped in. "It's been crazy without you. You know how the twins are. Camilla's exhausted, and the bills keep piling up. We could use help until we're back on track." Camilla nodded quickly. "And maybe, split a few payments? Nothing big." Mom added, "That's how families do it. We take care of each other." Their tone was syrupy, but I could taste the calculation underneath. The same strategy as before. Guilt first, gratitude later, until I slipped back into servitude. I looked at them. 3 people who once convinced me that being used was a form of love. "I can't," I said softly. "You mean you won't," Mom corrected. "Either word works," I replied. The silence thickened. Camilla's smile trembled first. Marco's jaw tightened. Mom leaned forward. "You're really going to sit there, in the house you grew up in, and act like you don't owe this family a thing?" I pushed my chair back. "I don't owe you the version of me that kept you comfortable, and that's the only version you seem to miss." Marco stood. "You're unbelievable." "Maybe," I said, "but I'm free." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam anything. I simply walked to the bathroom, because old habits die with ceremony, and locked the door. This time, I didn't make chaos. I made patience rot. I half-closed the tap so it dripped, left a spoonful of jam under the towel rack, and flushed the toilet just enough to clog slowly, not instantly. The kind of decay you don't notice until it's too late, like how they'd treated me. When I left, I said, "Thanks for dinner," and closed the door behind me. An hour later, my phone lit up. "Camilla, you're disgusting." "Marco, what the hell is wrong with you?" "Mom, you're sick. You need help." I smiled, set the phone down, and finished signing the lease on my new apartment. A real lease, 1 bedroom, 2nd floor, view of the park. Rent wasn't cheap, but I could afford it, because I'd always been the one keeping everyone else's ship from sinking. Now I was the only one on deck. The quiet in my apartment was different from the motel silence. That was survival. This was ownership. I bought new dishes, a small rug, a lamp with a linen shade that turned evenings warm instead of heavy. Every object had one purpose, mine. At night, I left the window open and let the wind move through like forgiveness. 2 weeks later, the universe added punctuation. I got a call from my manager on a Thursday morning. "Lyra," she said, "we've been reviewing the last quarter. You've been carrying half the team and we want to make it official. We're promoting you. Full benefits. Remote optional." My throat closed. "Wait, seriously?" "Seriously, you've earned it." When we hung up, I just sat there staring at the screen, smiling like someone who'd found proof of something she'd started to doubt existed. Recognition. The first person I wanted to tell wasn't family. It was Caleb. He answered on the first ring. "Hey, Star." "They promoted me." I knew they would. He grinned through the phone. I could hear it. "So, Are we celebrating with champagne or the world's most dangerous amount of sushi? Sushi, I said, and maybe a nap after. That night, we sat on my floor with takeout boxes and cheap chopsticks. He toasted me with a plastic cup of sake. To boundaries, pay raises, and women who stop rescuing people that call them selfish. I laughed. You're getting too good at this. He leaned in. At celebrating you? Not possible. I didn't post the promotion online. But Mika found out anyway. LinkedIn doesn't keep secrets. Within a day, she'd forwarded it to the family group chat. Then the messages began. Marco, so you're making that kind of money now and just letting us drown? Camila, wow, must be nice to forget your family when you move up. Mom, you used to be such a good girl. What happened to you? And the one that almost made me laugh. Mika, you owe us for everything we did for you. I read them once, then deleted them all. The next morning, a message came from an unknown number. It wasn't text, it was video. The thumbnail showed floorboards. My stomach dropped. I hit play. The footage wobbled, Marco's breathing loud in the mic. He was in my old room, crouched near the bed. The camera panned down to the corner, to the narrow seam in the wood. A screwdriver appeared, metal scraping against wood. He pried up the board like a magician revealing a trick. Underneath was the lockbox I'd forgotten. Silver, dented, familiar. My past in a small rectangle. He lifted it into view, set it down, and tapped the lid with the screwdriver. Then the video cut. A text followed. Marco, maybe come talk in person this time. You really want us holding this? Family shares everything, right? My pulse went cold. That box wasn't money. It was identity. IDs, pay stubs, tax files, backups of freelance work I'd done for years. It was everything. I didn't panic, not anymore. Instead, I called Noah, a friend from college who now worked in cybersecurity. Got a situation, I said, pacing. Old drive, encrypted. They have it. He whistled. Tell me you used the failsafe. I did. Good. Then all we need to do is trigger it. He walked me through the process. Revoking device trust, activating the remote wipe, resetting the encryption keys. 10 minutes later, everything inside that box turned into digital dust. Marco's next text came minutes after. Marco, what did you do? Everything's corrupted. You think this is funny? I typed back, you had one chance to be decent. That's over now. Then I blocked his number. By morning, new alerts appeared, failed logins from unfamiliar IP addresses, and attempted access to my old work portal. I forwarded the screenshots to my company's security team. They froze the IP, flagged my name for protection, and called to check in. Are you okay? My manager asked. I am now. And it was true. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was prepared. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with another name I didn't expect. Camila. You think you're safe just because you got a promotion? You can't erase what you did to this family. I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, Caleb texted. Hey, weird question. Did you block Camila? Because she just tried messaging me on Facebook. My stomach turned. What did she say? Something about helping you find your way back. I blocked her. Good, I wrote. She's circling the drain and looking for someone to drag. He sent back a heart emoji. Then, you want dinner out tonight? Somewhere bright. Yes, I typed. Somewhere with too much light and no ghosts. When we walked into the restaurant that evening, the noise hit me first. Laughter, clinking glasses, the sound of people who weren't surviving anyone else's mess. Caleb ordered for both of us without asking, because he knew the kind of food that made me exhale. Halfway through the meal, he reached across the table and brushed his thumb over my hand. You did the hardest thing, he said. You stopped fixing them. I smiled. I didn't fix them. I unplugged the machine. He laughed. Either way, you finally turned off the noise. And for once, he was right. The noise was gone. All that was left was mine. The quiet held for exactly 9 days. Then my phone lit up like a warning flare. Camila, check Facebook. You'll want to see this. It wasn't curiosity that made me look. It was instinct, the kind you develop when you've spent your life waiting for the next fire. Her post filled the screen before I could blink. Family isn't supposed to betray you. After everything we did for her, Lyra abandoned us when we needed her most. She stole from us, lied to everyone, and destroyed our trust. The twins cry for her every night. I hope she's proud. Underneath, a photo I hadn't seen in 2 years, me holding one of the twins on my shoulders, both of us laughing. Sunshine caught midair. The caption read, "She used to love them like her own. What happened?" By the time I finished reading, the post had over 100 comments. Relatives I barely remembered chimed in with hearts and prayers. A few neighbors joined in. We always thought Lyra was the sweet one. So sad. It wasn't just character assassination, it was theater, and I'd been cast as the villain. I didn't comment. I didn't message. I let the post sit there while I made tea, the water hissing like applause. By the time the kettle clicked off, my phone started buzzing for a different reason. Tasha, did you see what Camilla posted? Want me to send screenshots? Jose, already commented, left receipts. Anika, girl, we've got your back. I opened Facebook again and froze. My friends had flooded the comments section, not with vague defenses, but with proof. Tasha had posted screenshots of texts from Mom asking me for rent money. Jose shared Venmo receipts showing I'd covered groceries every single week. Even one of my coworkers, Maddie, jumped in with a group chat screenshot where Camila had once called me free daycare with Wi-Fi. The comments flipped fast. Wait, so Lyra paid all your bills? If she lived with you, why were the utilities in her name? Didn't your husband quit his job for a streaming hobby? Within hours, the sympathy shifted. The hearts turned to question marks. Camilla tried to reply, claimed everything was taken out of context. But once truth starts breathing, lies choke on their own air. By nightfall, the post was gone, deleted quietly, like a bad review. I didn't celebrate. I didn't screenshot the apology that never came. I just closed the app and stared out the window. The city was alive, uncaring, beautiful. Then came the letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, in my mother's handwriting. Inside, you proved your point, but we're still family. The twins miss you. Can't you come by just once? I folded it neatly and set it under a mug until the paper softened. Some messages deserve to be weighted down before they float back into your life. 3 days later, a white envelope arrived from the DMV. I thought it was registration for my new car. It wasn't. It was a notice, 3 unpaid parking tickets, each dated the same weekend, each for a car I no longer owned, the one I'd signed over to Marco months before I left. He'd never registered it in his name. He'd just kept driving. Uninsured, still under mine. The tickets were stacked like bad jokes. Same violation, same street, same bar parking lot. I called the DMV and sent them copies of the title transfer and the email, confirming I'd handed over the keys. They flagged the vehicle and marked my name cleared. 2 days later, the car got towed. That evening, the pounding on my door started. Through the peephole, I saw him, Marco, sweating, red-eyed, furious. Lyra, open the door! I didn't move. He slammed his palm against the frame. You ruined everything. They towed my car because of you. My neighbor, a quiet man from the apartment across the hall, peeked out. Everything okay? No, I said, but it will be. I called the police. By the time they arrived, Marco was trying to play it calm. Family misunderstanding, he said. My sister's just being dramatic. I handed the officer my folder. Printouts, proof, the title transfer, the messages, the threats. Years of documentation had built me an armor I didn't even realize I'd been forging. The officer looked up from the pages. Do you want to press charges? No, I said. Just make sure it's on record. Marco left with his head down, the way people do when they can't decide if they're embarrassed or enraged. 3 hours later, my mother texted from a new number. You called the cops on your own brother. Disgusting. I didn't answer. I blocked her again. That night, I sat on my couch with the lights off. The city hummed outside like a living thing. I let it fill the room until it drowned the noise in my head. A week later, news traveled faster than guilt. Camilla had been fired. My coworker's sister worked at the salon where she'd spiraled. Camilla had screamed at a client in front of kids, accusing her of stealing tips. Someone filmed it. It went viral for all the wrong reasons. When I saw the clip, I didn't laugh. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. Watching her rage out at a stranger was like watching an echo of my own past. Proof that some people can't survive without a target. 2 days later, another voicemail from Mom. Just calling to say we're having some hard times. Not asking for anything. Just thought you should care. I didn't. By the next week, the updates trickled in through mutual acquaintances. The twins were pulled out of daycare. Marco had quit, or been fired, from his job. They were trying to start an online candle business, reselling bulk stock at a markup. It wasn't working. For the first time, I didn't feel the pull to rescue anyone. I walked through my apartment and looked at everything that was mine. The lamp Caleb assembled, the coffee mug with a chip, the worn rug where my feet fit perfectly. I'd built this from the rubble of their expectations. That night, Caleb came over with takeout and a small surprise, a printed photograph in a wooden frame. It was the one we'd taken on our first road trip, me laughing at nothing in particular, wind in my hair, peace I didn't recognize back then. He set it on my shelf. "So you don't forget what free looks like," he said. I smiled. "You always bring the right kind of light." He kissed my forehead. "That's because you stopped living in the dark." The next morning, I opened a new document on my laptop and titled it The Ledger. Every transfer, every bill, every favor, every lie, not for revenge, for memory. I wrote until my hands ached, until every debt was spelled out in full, not what they owed me, but what I'd already paid in time, sanity, and sleep. When I finished, I saved it and whispered, "Paid in full." The cursor blinked like a heartbeat, steady, alive. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like an unpaid bill waiting to be settled. I was whole. Spring came quietly that year. No grand announcement, no fireworks of change, just softer light slipping through the blinds and the slow warmth of mornings that didn't demand anything from me. I woke up without a list in my head. No. "Can you pick up the twins?" No. "We need the payment by Friday." Just silence, coffee, sunlight, and the knowledge that every sound in this apartment existed because I allowed it to. It was peace, but not the cinematic kind people post about. It was the quiet earned through exhaustion, the kind that feels suspicious at first. I had to learn to trust it. Caleb started spending more evenings here, bringing the smell of takeout and laughter that didn't sound like obligation. We built something slow, solid, but light. He'd lean in the doorway sometimes and say, "You realize this place looks like you now, right?" I'd look around, the plants thriving in mismatched pots, the framed photograph from our road trip, the shelf of books I'd never had time to read before, and I'd believe him. One night, he found the ledger open on my desk. He skimmed a page before I could stop him. "This is everything?" he asked. "Every dollar, every lie," I said. "It's not about holding it over them, it's just proof that I wasn't crazy." He nodded slowly. "You don't have to carry this anymore." "I know," I said, closing the document. "That's why it's written down, so I don't have to." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his voice low against my shoulder. "You're allowed to rest now." A week later, an envelope slipped through my mail slot. No return address, just my name. Inside, one line, written in Eli's careful handwriting. "You were right, about everything. I'm sorry." It was strange, the way an apology that small could unclench something in your chest. Not forgiveness, just acknowledgement. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Some doors don't require reopening. They just need to stop creaking in your head. Word drifted through mutuals like rumors of an old storm. Mom had stopped posting pictures. Marco and Camila were still working on their candle business. Their social media showed staged smiles over empty tables. Even Mika, the sister who always knew how to spin everything into a moral lecture, had gone quiet online. They'd learned to live without me, or at least without my money. And I had learned to live without their noise. I took a pottery class on Thursdays. My hands, used to typing and budgeting, learned the shape of creation again, how to center clay, how to hold pressure and gentleness at the same time. I made crooked bowls and lopsided mugs. They weren't perfect. They were mine. One Saturday morning, while glazing a piece, my instructor said, "You're patient. You don't rush anything." I smiled. "I used to rush everything. Now I know what happens when you do." He laughed softly. "You end up cleaning other people's messes." Exactly. By summer, the apartment had changed with me. Curtains in soft colors, plants that leaned toward the light, a small corkboard above my desk filled with moments, photos, ticket stubs, sticky notes from Caleb, and a printed quote I'd written during my worst night. "You don't owe anyone your peace to prove you're good." It became my gospel. One evening, while Caleb was cooking, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. I didn't look like someone who'd escaped something. I looked like someone who'd finally arrived. He turned, holding a wooden spoon. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything I left," I said. "And how little I miss it." He smiled. "You never left. You just stopped staying where you weren't seen." I didn't hear from my family again. Not directly. But once, driving home from the market, I passed their street. The house looked smaller. The yard was overgrown. A tricycle lay on its side near the porch. I slowed at the corner, then kept going. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel triumphant. Just distance. The kind that doesn't ache anymore. Now my days are quiet in ways that once felt impossible. I wake up before sunrise, brew coffee in the mug I made in class, and sit by the window watching the park come alive. Dogs, joggers, kids laughing like nothing bad has ever happened. Sometimes I think about the girl I used to be. The one holding the laundry basket, standing in a living room full of laughter that wasn't hers, pretending she wasn't breaking. I wish I could tell her it ends like this, not with revenge, not with applause, but with peace. That she'd have her own keys, her own coffee mug, her own name, untangled from anyone else's debt. That one day the quiet wouldn't scare her. It would feel like home. On my fridge now, next to Caleb's latest sticky note, "You make calm look good." There's a small Polaroid from pottery class. I'm smiling, covered in clay, hair a mess, light everywhere. Under it, written in blue ink, "I was never the babysitter. I was the backbone." And the world didn't collapse when I stopped holding it up. Because sometimes survival isn't walking away from the fire. It's realizing you were the one keeping it burning and finally choosing to let it go.